All right, what is up, guys? This is Dr. Kyler with ProArm Academy. Wanted to talk through what the different phases of the throw motion arm, because there are thousands of athletes that play baseball and have no idea what the different phases of the throwing motion are. And what's important to know about these different phases is that there are certain injuries that will occur at different parts of the throwing motion. And I want you to understand there are things to look out for when it comes to different injuries at different parts of the throwing motion, right? So, we're not going to dive into everything when it comes to, all of the injuries, but just know at certain time points, and I'll mention some of them here, that certain injuries may or potentially occur. Like we'll go into a different video on talking about more injuries and things like that. But nonetheless, wanted to talk through just the phases of the throwing motion today and what this really looks like from a sequencing standpoint when it comes to throwing a baseball, right? So when we look at the throwing motion, there's different ways that people categorize the actual phases. I'm actually going to put this little microphone right here on my shirt a second, make it a little bit easier. Perfect. So when it comes to the phase of throw motion, I like this model specifically. So if you want to be a nerd and nerd out about this stuff, I put the actual article here that I took this picture from. But essentially what I want you to realize is that at certain time points that there are specific parts of how we categorize the throwing motion, right? So we see the windup here, we see the stride phase, we see early cocking, late cocking, we see acceleration, deceleration, and then follow through. Okay, so you can see at this model right here, it's just broken down by these different stages right here. Okay, and then there are certain places within those phases that are very, very important to understand, like at foot contact, right? As your front foot hits the ground, what position should your body be at that position, right? Max external rotation, ER stands for external rotation. So that's your shoulder basically being in this flipped back position. Okay, what does that look like at a certain time position? And then at bar release, what does that kind of look like as well, right? So these are just the basics of the different phases of the throwing motion. So let's dive into a little bit more specific when it comes to all of this. Next slide. Okay, so I want to talk real quick. I'm not going to bore you. You can read this if you want to, but just what is kinematic sequencing? Okay, basically what this is the coordinated movement pattern that your body should go through when you throw a baseball, right? So you're basically pulling up energy from the ground and you are going to transmit that energy when you throw a baseball. But what's the sequence of events that your body goes through to actually do that very efficiently, right? So when we talk about sequencing, or I talk about kinematic sequencing with athletes or coaches or parents, I don't want to bore them, but I really just want the take-home message to be that we're talking about efficient throwing. How are you putting your body in the environment to be able to transmit the forces very efficiently while you're throwing a baseball? And so if you're doing that very efficiently, then the likelihood of you reducing the risk of injuries is actually pretty high, right? So we see people that have elbow and shoulder pain or different injuries where they're just not as efficient when they throw. And so you might be able to see something like, hey, something looks off when it comes to throwing mechanics. I feel like I see a lot of that where they're like, something's off, but like I can't really pinpoint what it is. And so that's when we'd have to do like a video throwing analysis to actually say, hey, is your body moving efficiently to actually throw a baseball? Okay. All right. So when it comes to sequencing a little bit more in depth, there's really 4 elements to it that we like to kind of graph out, main kind of concepts here, right? So we're not going to get too nerdy, but basically I want you to think about your pelvis, your hips, essentially, your torso or your trunk, your arm, and then the ball or your hand. Okay, so those 4 specific places of your body should be transmitting energy very efficiently. Okay, so like I said, not going to get too nerdy, but I wanted to put the graphs on here just to show you the order of operations of how this actually should kind of work. And so like I put here, red is the pelvis. So this line right here represents your pelvis, right? So as time goes along, what is rotating first, right? Is your hips rotating first, or is your trunk rotating first? That's kind of what we're getting at here. So for here, you can see Shohei, his pelvis right here should rotate towards home plate first. So he's right here to throw. He's rotating his pelvis to the left. After he rotates his pelvis, that's when his trunk should rotate, and then his arm, and then eventually the hand as it's transmitting energy there. So we've got red for the pelvis, green for the torso, blue for the arm, and yellow for the hand, right? So these lines signify these different elements of your body, right? Okay, so pelvis, red, that is going first, okay? That's what's rotating first. Then we've got green, his torso. That's the next thing that's rotating, okay? So we've got red, green, blue. That's where your hand is, and then the ball right here. So it's going 1, 2, 3, 4. Pelvis, torso, hand, shoulder, arm, hand, excuse me. Now, this is somebody that throws 95 miles an hour, right? This is somebody that's a very efficient thrower. This is somebody that's a Division I baseball player. They still throw hard, 87 to 88, but they're not as efficient, right? So what we see here is green is first before red. So what does that mean? That means this person, not Shohei specifically, but this person right here, their trunk is rotating towards home plate before their pelvis does, okay? That's an inefficient throwing pattern. So they're not getting as good hip-shoulder separation when they throw here. So that this person is going torso or shoulders first, their trunk first, then their pelvis is rotating, and then the arm, and then the hand is coming after that, right? So that's going to be a little bit of a different type of sequencing pattern compared to somebody that's very efficient, that's throwing 95 miles an hour, right? So we see this in all different ways when we work with athletes and stuff. And so I would say, usually the youth athletes are going to be the ones that we have to work the most at this, obviously, because they're not honed into their throwing skills as seasoned compared to obviously like a college athlete would. So that's really kinematic sequencing in a nutshell. You want to have a very specific sequence of events that occurs when you're throwing a baseball. Okay. Now I'll make some more videos on this, just actually acting this out to make sure it's a little more clear and things like that. All right, and so this is a great video of what this looks like. So this is a 3D model. And so you'll see that, I'll play it a couple times. What we're going to see here is basically different body segments. It's going to light up red, right? So that's kind of the sequence that we're looking for. We're looking for it to light up red in a very specific, like order of operations, if you will. And so for this on this video, I put the link here if you want to see this YouTube video. So let me move my head out of the way. That's the link right there. But this is a great video, and this person actually does a really good job talking about the sequencing of throwing. But basically, they broke it down to the lower limb, right? That's leading into your pelvis, your trunk, and then your arms, how you're going to throw, right? So watch the red as we travel through here. Let's see if I can. No, I'll have to play it. Okay. So watch red right here. It's red. That's transmitting the energy up to your pelvis, your trunk, then your arm, and then the hand right there. Okay, let's watch it one more time. Full speed. Watch the red here. So we've got red on the front leg, back leg, pelvis, trunk, arm, and then the hand. Okay, so it's going, the energy's flowing through your body that way. Okay. All right, so let's watch the full throwing motion for somebody. This is an athlete that I worked with, and so pretty efficient, but I want you to kind of get an appreciation of what this looks like, on an actual player compared to just watching like a 3D model, obviously. So let's watch the full motion this, right? So it's a very, very, very fast motion. Throwing happens very, very fast. And so we're talking about things that happen in milliseconds, and throwing is one of the most stressful things that you can do on your body. One of the most stressful aspects of all of movement patterns of sports. And so I'm actually going to pause it real quick. Let's see, I don't think I can, I can't really. I can go through it like here. But, okay, so he's going through the windup, right? And so now we're going to go through these different phases of throwing, okay? So he's going to go through the stride phase right here. And then, of course, he's got foot contact. He's flipping back up. Okay, let's actually back up a little bit. So, yeah, he gets a little bit rotated here. His trunk is a little bit back and stuff. His arm's actually a little bit more extended probably than I would love for it to be when he's flipped back. So he's got a little bit of like elbow extension here. So maybe a little bit of early spine extension as well. But regardless, we're not going to do a throwing analysis with him specifically, but just to give you an appreciation of the amount of force that's actually being transmitted through somebody's body when they throw, right? So very, very, very stressful. And so let's play one more time. Boom. Yep. So this is a guy that throws hard, right? He throws low 90s. And so pretty efficient, but pretty tall and lanky, but he can definitely gain some weight just to make sure that he's got some more mass behind him and things like that. But in a nutshell, that is the phases of throwing, and then also breaking down the basics of kinematic sequencing. Like I said, we'll definitely dive into some more videos and topics on this stuff. But yeah, I felt like this would be a good introduction for everybody. So let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, you can just message me, or you can leave some comments. We'll see you next time.